It is a big question to dive into. There's a number of issues, everything from transportation to urban planning, and probably the one thing that's kind of buzzing around right now that is on the hearts and minds of many voters is the Austinites for Geographic Representation's 10-1 plan. I don't know if you're familiar with the current makeup. You probably are, but maybe some of your listeners aren't. All of the council positions are at large, meaning the 6 people that are voted in by the general public, and so you don't per se have a representative that represents your area of town geographically. So if you have an issue, you have a concern, it's really kind of a 1 in 6 shot that you're going to find somebody who's interested in your cause on council. Whereas the current plan is, or the current idea is to go to a 10-1 plan, giving Austin 10 geographic locations within the city so that you yourself would have a representative that you could call on. It's the question I get asked most when I'm shaking hands and meeting people out in the public is immediately they say, "Hi, how are you? It's good to meet you. So would you be my representative?"
Hmm.
And so my answer is always complicated. It's yes and no. I said there's 6 people that are elected by the very few, because only about 7% of the people vote. And again, it goes back to a lack of leadership. We've had 17 years on council where we've not had a rate increase. You know, it's not a surprise that energy rates are going up across the globe, but yet we have failed to plan for these rate increases, and it's just been passed from one council to the next council to the next council. And here we sit looking at a 12.5% rate increase that just the average, homeowner should not be absorbing, especially when you talk about low income or faith-based organizations having to have a 12.5% hit on their P&L. That's an enormous hit for some of these nonprofit organizations to absorb. It's inevitable. Right now, I was talking to somebody the other day about, I was out fishing and my fishing line got all wound up. And so I spent the majority of my Sunday afternoon undoing my fishing line and not catching any fish. And that's kind of where we are with the rate deal, in that we're going to have to spend time undoing all of the mess that's been created behind and left behind. But it's inevitable. We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to put in a rate increase. It's just a matter of now, can we stage it so that people can absorb it into their financial plans? Well, I definitely like the phase-in plan. And like I mentioned, it's inevitable. We're going to have to absorb it. But let's not take the hit all at once. Let's be kind to our residents, to our nonprofits, and our faith-based organizations. Let's let them plan and absorb that hit over time. The part that drives me insane about it is that we just failed to plan. We have absolutely done nothing to plan for Austin Energy's rate increase. And at the same time, while Austin Energy is coming to council and saying, "Hey, folks, we need a huge increase," but then not to deliver any cost-cutting measures at the same time. I mean, I've run businesses, but and if my staff comes to me and says, "We'd like a budget increase," great. What are you going to use it for? What do you want to get at? What are we going to get out of it? And then what are you guys doing to control costs on the back end of the P&L? And that's what we don't see from Austin Energy. It's what we historically don't see from some of these departments. It's funny you mention it because it is kind of a touchy subject. And I have noticed there's been a bit of dancing around of answers and how we're going to do it. And it's kind of broad brush of, we need transportation issues. We need affordable housing is what I keep hearing. Well, that's great, but what are we going to do? And I think a lot of folks are a little hesitant to answer very specifically because they're trying to balance neighborhood groups and they're trying to balance development groups and environmental groups. And so they're trying to tread so softly and so lightly that nobody's stepping out and taking leadership roles and saying, this is what we need to be doing. I don't care if it's not the popular response. This is what we need to be doing. Things like transportation, planning for where we're going to go, and not putting pockets of poverty in the city. We continually put, quote unquote, affordable housing in areas of town that are not West Austin, that are not downtown, that are not the sought after places to live, right? Because neighborhood councils get involved and they don't want that in their neighborhood. But at the same time, everybody wants affordable housing. There's going to kind of come a point where we've got to have a little give and take. We've got to reduce some of the ordinances that are in the way of multifamily housing so that we can provide for some multifamily housing in different areas of town and not always put our poverty in one pocket of Austin. I grew up in Vegas in Section 8 housing with a single mother. And some of the differences that we had back then is we could choose where we wanted to live because there were options available around the city that didn't isolate us to one area of town where you just feel defeated and that there's no way out. And so because of that, we were able to pick where we want to live and move off of affordable housing and start to have, drive and desires to go beyond that and stand on our own 2 feet. And I think that here in Austin, we tend to put our poverty in one little pocket. And I think everybody knows that pocket. And it's time that we all work together to plan for affordable housing and put faces on it. There's no reason that affordable housing can't be your neighbor. And it's time that we stop closing our eyes to that. Creating a plan and working within a plan is great if everybody's involved and everybody's had a say in that plan, because it's much easier for me to sell that plan down the river, right? If you've had a say in it. And I don't have to get your buy-in, I already have it because you put your words on the plan together. Things like the Imagine Austin plan are a great framework. It brings in the different groups from developers, environmentalists, and neighborhood groups. And it puts everybody kind of everybody's on the same page, so to speak, but it's not the exact plan of what we're going to do, but at least gives folks an idea of this is the direction that we'd like to go. This is everybody's say, and let's put something together that makes sense for the greater Austin. At the same time, we've got, when you talk about multifamily housing, everybody talks about their property taxes being really high. Well, the things that drive up your property rates are how your neighborhood is structured, right? And so if you continue to deny multifamily housing, you can continue to see your property value go up, right? I mean, that's why we all tend to deny multifamily housing in our neighborhoods, because we think it brings the home values down. Having rail as part of the recipe of transportation fixes for Austin is definitely an option to put on the table. I don't know it's the solution because I'm a business person, so I'm a big believer in market driven data. And if the market data says that there is a clamoring of folks who want to ride rail, and that is the direction that the city wants to go, then I'll leave it up to the voters to decide and definitely enable them to do that. The other side of that coin is to make sure that we're planning for that transportation growth. It's much easier to go out and put new lines in than it is to retrofit areas of Austin where rail might work and where we've seen some congestion. We failed to plan, but now let's plan for the future and put rail in where it makes sense, where the voters are actually asking for it. The Apple deal, I would have loved to have seen go along a rail line out in East Austin instead of where it's probably going to sit up off Palmer Lane. Let's put that money back in Austin. Let's have those small businesses build up around the areas of Austin that really need it, rather than to feed into the Round Rock Independent School District and to pull from employees who live in Williamson County. I'm not, there's some people who definitely come out and say, no rail, absolutely no rail. I'm open-minded. I think if the people say that they want it, if the market demand is there for it, then it makes sense to fit into our transportation plan, then definitely let's go that direction. But I'm not going to go out and cheerlead one way or the other. I'm going to listen to what the people have to say. But I will tell the voters to pay close attention to each one of the folks that are in Place 5. There's a reason that we're running. And listen to our stories, check out our, the websites, and make an informed decision. And honestly, even if you don't come out and vote for me, please come out and vote for your city election. 7% of the city of Austin should not decide your utility rate, should not decide light rail options for you. These are huge decisions.